वेलकम स्टूडेंट्स टू माय चैनल वर्ल्ड ऑफ जूलॉजी। आज के वीडियो में हम सेल एंड मॉलिक्यूलर बायोलॉजी, डिफरेंस बिटवीन द प्रोकैरियोटिक एंड यूकैरियोटिक सेल और सेल ऑर्गेनेल्स के बारे में स्टडी करने वाले हैं। अगर वीडियो पसंद आए तो लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब करना है और नोटिफिकेशंस के लिए बेल आइकॉन क्लिक करना है। अकॉर्डिंग टू द टुडेज वीडियो's topic, we will be discuss about the cell and molecular biology. We have been discussing last lecture what is the cell and cell biology. So today we will discuss about the molecular biology. In addition to that, as per our course, there is a cell and molecular biology. Both are interrelated or interdependent on each other. That is the cell and the molecules. So what is molecular biology? That is the molecular biology is a branch of science that deals with the study of the macromolecules, which are responsible for the proceed of life, responsible for the formation of the cell, we can say. Okay, so that molecular biology, that macromolecules, especially the proteins and nucleic acids. Okay, so that proteins and nucleic acids, why it is the study of proteins, that is macromolecules, proteins and nucleic acids especially, that is proteins are the, as our last video we have discussed about the various food ingredients, that is proteins, lipids, carbohydrates. These are the major food groups, and so that there is protein is a structural element or the structural food material. So proteins are responsible for the formation of the structure of organisms, structure of the animals or plants, etc. Okay, so that there is that macromolecules which are responsible for the formation of the formation and the maintenance of the cell, so that there is a cell itself will be functioning because of that macromolecules. First of all, that is why it can be say that is there is a formation of the cell membrane. If you observe the cell membrane, we know that about that there is a plasma membrane is out at the outermost covering of the cell, and that plasma membrane is also made by the proteins and lipid bilayer. Okay, so that proteins are the major building blocks, that is they are forming the structure, so that macromolecules are responsible, as well as the nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are nothing but the genes, we can say. Okay, whatever the genes are present in those species, that genes are representing the characteristics of that specific species, and so that to maintain the species onto the earth, there is a specific kind of the genes are present, and so that these are the major macromolecules. And so cell is depend on the macromolecules, and because of that cell will be functions, so that the mutually we will study about the cell and molecular biology. First of all, if we say, we have discussed about the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell in last lecture, that is prokaryotic cell is a bacterial cell or the blue-green algae and other algae and other bacteria. There are different kind of the bacteria are there. There are specific kind of the cell is there. That is a cellular organism. Okay, single cell organism. So if we study about the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, in prokaryotic cell there is a, according to the, first of all we study about the outer covering of the cell or the protective envelope of the cell. So in bacterial cell we can consider, suppose there is a presence of the prokaryotic cell, presence of the at the innermost layer into the cytoplasmic layer, there is presence of the cytoplasmic membrane, and below that there is that above that there is presence of the cell wall, and the outermost layer, that is called as the capsule. So this capsule is nothing but provided with the specialized kinds of the proteins, and so that bacteria are not easily curable. So in this disastrous situation today's, that is the COVID-19 pandemic that scattered or multiplies all over the world, in that you have been read or know about that in newspapers or your that news, you have been observed about that coronavirus, that coronavirus having a specific protective covering at the outer layer of the coronavirus, and inside the coronavirus, above, in between that coronavirus, there is the presence of the chromosomal material. of the coronavirus. Okay, so that protective covering is responsible for the acceptance of the specialized kinds of the biomolecules or the reject that biomolecules, so that is most functioning important functioning characteristic outer covering. And at the bacterial cell or the prokaryotic cell, there is capsule is perforated by the specialized kinds of the cells, and so that these are protective envelopes are most stable and most useful for the prokaryotic cell. Then below that there is presence of the cell wall, and at the innermost layer there is a cytoplasmic membrane is there. So they are bacterial cells or the blue green algae cells. These are very protectively enveloped by the specialized kind of the outer membranes or the outer walls and the capsule mutually. So that is the one first that major difference as compared to the eukaryotic cell. In eukaryotic cell there is a double layered plasma membrane is situated, and plasma membrane is nothing but the lipid and proteins bilayer. Lipid and protein bilayer at the outermost and the inner surface of the cell cytoplasm there is presence of the proteins, and at the outer layer there is presence of the proteins, and in between that there is a presence of the lipids, hydrophilic and hydrophobic natured lipids are there, that fatty acid chains are there, and so that there is a formation of the plasma membrane takes place. Okay, so according to the outer covering or the protective envelope of the cells as compared to the pro and eukaryotic cells, there is presence of the outermost covering, that is cell membrane or plasma membrane into the eukaryotic cell, and into the prokaryotic cell the cytoplasmic membrane at the innermost layer. Above that there is a cell wall, and the outermost covering is called as the capsule, that is perforated by the specialized kinds of the proteins are there. So this is the most important differentiating character, the pro and eukaryotic. As well as in prokaryotic cell there is no nucleus is situated. So according to the, we will go through the outline of the various organelles which are responsible for the cell functioning. That is, as we know about the cell, that is the cell is a structural and functional unit of the life. Okay, so that there is a specialized kinds of the organelles are situated into the cells, and so that cell is functioning, or they are that cells are forming a specialized biochemical reaction. They are biochemical reactions are responsible for the proceed of life. So what kind of the cell organelles are present into the both pro and eukaryotic cell? So according to the eukaryotic cell, first of all, why it is called as higher animals or higher plant cells, we can say, so that it is advanced in structure, so that there is specialized kinds of the cell organelles are there. First of all, if we see, that is the nucleus is a important cell organelle, as well as there is presence of the Golgi complex, that is the lamellar structure, that is Golgi complex, as well as there is presence of smooth endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum, nucleus. In between the nucleus there is nucleolus is situated. In nucleus side nucleoplasm there is presence of the chromosomal material, as well as there is ribosomes are scattered into the cytoplasm, as well as they are stick to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and so that the endoplasmic reticulums are called as the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and the other endoplasmic reticulum, that is smooth endoplasmic reticulum, that divide of the attachment of the ribosomes. So there is, that is also the one kind of the cell organelle, as well as there is presence of the lysosomes are there, that is one another kind of the cell organelle. Then centrioles are situated. Then there is presence of the plasma membrane is there, and these are the desmosomes are there, and so that these are different kind of the cell organelles are situated into the eukaryotic cell, and so that eukaryotic cell is, as compared to the prokaryotic cell, it is most advanced, that is into the functioning, and so that these organelles are helpful to the maintenance of life, that is the higher or advanced life of the organisms. So according to the cell organelles, there is into the prokaryotic cell, there is cytoplasm is situated as like the eukaryotic cell, but in cytoplasm there is a nucleus is devoid, nucleus is absent into the prokaryotic cell. So in prokaryotic cell, into the cytoplasmic that medium, it is a water or fluid jelly like substance that filled with the into the cytoplasm, there is a genetic material as like the nucleus into the eukaryotic cell. In nucleus there is the presence of the chromosomal material is there, as like in prokaryotic cell, in the cytoplasm chromosomal material or the whatever genetic information into the chromosomes, into the genes, that is freely scattered, freely present into the cytoplasm. That is the another kind of the distinguishing characteristics between the pro and eukaryotic cell. As like the ribosomes are scattered into the eukaryotic cell, as well as they are attached to the outer membrane of the rough endoplasmic reticulums, that mostly and majorly they are present around the nuclear envelope, and these organelle is enormously present into the prokaryotic cell. There are differentiated or various specialized kinds of the ribosomes are present into the prokaryotic cell. So as far as concerning the cell and molecular biology correction, we know that the macromolecules are responsible for the formation of the life or the maintenance of the cell structure or cell functions. So that in that, as we earlier discussed about, the proteins are the major building block food materials. Okay, so proteins are responsible for all the activities of the cell, that is structure formation and various biomolecule formations, that is mutually with other food materials, proteins are forming the different kind of the biomolecules, and so that they can be form the structure, they can be maintain the structure, and so that proteins are the major building blocks they are. And then proteins are when major building blocks or major that macromolecules into the cells or for the maintenance of the cell, so that should be synthesized, that should be produced into the cell, and so that production of the proteins will takes place into the ribosomes. So ribosomes are nothing but formed by also proteins and specialized kinds of the ribosomal RNAs. We will in detail or in outline we will discuss about later on that what is the ribosomal structure. So ribosomes in outline, ribosomes are the responsible factors or responsible organelles which are protein for the protein synthesis. Okay, so in protein synthesis in both the pro and eukaryotic, ribosomes are responsible for the formation of the various kinds of the specialized kinds of the proteins, and so that the ribosomes is the only organelle is present into the prokaryotic cell. So according to the eukaryotic cell, ribosomes are either scattered into the cytoplasm or attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulums. Okay, but there is no other organelles are present into the prokaryotic cell. So the ribosomes are differentially scattered inside the cytoplasm. Okay, so that they are rapidly synthesize the proteins, and so the bacteria are not easily destroyable. They are forming the disease to the organisms because of that, and so that there is a speedily protein synthesis takes place into the free cytoplasm. Okay, so according to the cell organelles, the ribosomes are only present into the prokaryotic cell, as well as the chromosomal material, that is no doubt it is also the living organism, that is the prokaryotic cell, and so that there is a having a specialized kinds of the genes are there for the maintenance of that species onto the earth, so that major organelle is present, that is in both the cells, that is pro and eukaryotic cell, and other organelles are devoid into the prokaryotic cell, like Golgi bodies or Golgi complex, then nucleus, nucleolus, desmosomes, then lysosomes, centrioles, etc. Other cell organelles which are differentiating into their characteristic functioning macromolecule or biomolecule production, and so that these are divided into the prokaryotic cell. So in detail, if we go through the outline of the eukaryotic cell, first of all we study about the nucleus. So nucleus is also in other words called as the heart of the cell. Okay, so nucleus is why it is called as the heart of cell, that is eukaryotic cell. That is because there is a chromosomal material is situated inside the nucleoplasm. As in our last video, we have discussed about the protoplasmic matter of the cell. That is the protoplasmic matter is outside the nucleus and the inside the nucleus into the cell. There are two kinds of the differentiating protoplasm is there. In cytoplasm, there is a cytoplasmic protoplasm, and in nucleus there is a nucleoplasm as a protoplasm. Okay, so that there is difference between the protoplasm of the cell interior, and there is a protoplasm, cytoplasmic protoplasm and the nucleoplasmic protoplasm. And according to that, the nucleus is a heart of the cell, also called as heart of cell, because that will be consisting of the chromosomes as well as inside the nucleus, either centrally present or at the inner periphery of the cell there is presence of the nucleolus is there. So what is the ingredients of the nucleus, or what are the interior nucleolus is present? That is mRNA, rRNA and tRNAs are there. Okay, so that RNAs, most of the that organisms are first of arised onto the earth because of the formation of the RNAs onto the earth. First of all, not DNAs or genes are formed onto the earth. First of all, there is RNAs are formed onto the earth, and RNAs are responsible for the formation of the or processing of the or maintenance of the genes is there. And so that these are the major basic macromolecules which are responsible for the proceed of the genetics of the cell or the genetic of the specific kind of the species of the organism. Okay, so that there is nucleus is a heart of the cell. Then the another cell organelle that is situated around the nucleus as well as scattered also into the cytoplasm, and it is also situated into the cytoplasm but outside the nucleus, and that is called as the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Why it is called as rough endoplasmic reticulum? That is on their outer surface there is attachment of the ribosomes are there. As we said earlier, that is ribosomes are responsible for the protein synthesis, so that majorly they are, or in enormous quantity these are present at the outer periphery of the nucleus, so that these are responsible for the attachment of the ribosomes, as well as ribosomes without or devoid of the ribosomes there is another cell organelle that is smooth endoplasmic reticulum that will be differentiate into the functioning as compared to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, as well as there is presence of the in cytoplasm chromosomes are present, as well as there is desmosomes are present. Desmosomes are responsible for the specialized biochemical at the time of the biochemical reaction cell that will be depends on the desmosomes. Okay, then there is the presence of lysosomes are there. Lysosomes are nothing but the suicide bags of the cells. At the time of the any mechanical hurt, if cell will be ruptured or the cell aging, at that time cell aging means when the age of the cell is complete. As we all know very well why our age is increased, why our hairs are whitish after the some age, that is called as the aging of the cells, and so that we are becoming to the higher ages. Okay, so that cell, because of the cell aging, and at the time of the cell aging, if cell is complete its life, at that time whatever the ruptured cells, that is the mechanical hurt or any injury, at that time the cells are dissolved, they are into the matter, bodily matters, and so that there is that is because of the specialized kinds of the enzymes are there present into the lysosomes, and that lysosomes are nothing but the suicide bags of the cell. They are dissolving the cell, they are destroying the cell, not destroy, but that matters are responsible again the helpful for the cell mitosis of the another cell, so that they are destroyed that cell, that is the hurting cell, so that there is another kind of the cell organelle is present. Then there is presence of the centrioles, that is the dotted dark structures are there, these are called as the centrioles, and centrioles are responsible for the formation of the fibers, that is the at the time of the cell mitosis there is a spindle fibers are formed, and the spindle fibers of the cell organelle centriole, that is provided with the specialized kinds of the proteins, and they are forming the fibrous proteins, then they are forming the spindle fibers, and on the at the time of mitosis when cell will be divided into the two new cells, at that time the chromosome should be equally divided into the both dividing cells, and so that spindle fibers are play the major role at the time of the cell mitosis, and they are equally divided because of that fibular that proteins, there is at the fibers of the protein there is attachment of the chromosomal material to the both the sides, and there is two cells are formed, new cells are formed, so that that is the also one kind of the important cell organelle, that is centriole. Then another cell organelle, that is the Golgi complex. That Golgi complex is nothing but also called as the traffic police of the cells, we can say. That is the why it is called as the traffic police of cells, because there is presence of the lamellar structure of the Golgi bodies or Golgi complex, and these lamellae are having the cis region and trans region. As there is a protein synthesized from the ribosomes on the rough ventricular reticulum as well as the scattered into the cytoplasm, that synthesized proteins for the processing of the different kind of the biomolecules into the Golgi complex, and they are from the cis region, they are processed through the cis region into the lamellae, and they are pinched off after the process of formation of the specialized kinds of the biomolecules, and so that they are responsible for the whatever the important material formation into the for the cell, and whatever not, or whatever important factors that are responsible for the cell maintenance, these are processed into the Golgi bodies or Golgi complex, so that these are called as the traffic police of the cells. Then another kind of the cell organelle, that is called as the mitochondria. Mitochondria are the bean shaped structure, and these are having the inner matrix, there is presence of the cristae, there is the circular cristae is present, and in that cristae there is in the matrix there is production of the energy molecules takes place. Whatever the carbohydrates in food materials that is getting by the organism, and that carbohydrates are when digested, and it will be stopped food material converts into the complex food material, liquefied food material, and that carbohydrate in the form of the carbohydrate that will be formed into the monosaccharides, and then monosaccharides when interact only with the mitochondria in mitochondrial matrix in the cristae, there is formation of the various enzymatic reactions, as you know that Krebs cycle. Okay, so in Krebs cycle there is formation of the glucose molecule to the adenosine triphosphate molecule, that is the ATP molecule. Okay, so that there is a ATP is formed. When ATP is formed, adenosine triphosphate, that is the energy molecule is formed, cell will be functioning, cell will be motile, so that there is a cell will be forming, or whatever the energy required for the cell, all the activities of the cell, that will be provided by the mitochondria. Okay, so that these all the cell organelles which are important for the functioning and the structure of formation of the structure of the cell, these are present into the cell, scattered into the cytoplasm as well as into the nuclear plasm, and so that these are responsible for the highly advanced life of the higher animals and plants. So there is a difference between the that is prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell, as well as the molecular biology, that is the outline of the molecular biology, that is deals with the study of the macromolecules, that macromolecules which are proteins and nucleic acids. As we say, that is the proteins are major building blocks, and so that proteins are responsible factors for the all these biochemical reactions into the cells from the proteins there is a different kind of the biomolecules are formed which are most important for the functioning of the cell. For example, suppose if other food ingredients we are getting or organisms are getting carbohydrates, fats or lipids and proteins, then as well as the minerals and vitamins. Okay, so mutually there is formation of the specialized biomolecules which are most useful for the cell functioning. So for example, if you take the one kind of example, that is the lipoproteins. Okay, lipid and proteins which are responsible for the different kind of the cell activities. Okay, then there is presence of the in the organism's body, in higher organism there is in our body there is hemoglobin. Okay, what is heme? That is the iron, that is the mineral. So mineral is when interact with the globin protein, that is the tertiary structure of protein, globin protein. That globin protein, in the globin protein's interior structure there is attachment of the by the biochemical reactions, by the bonding of the iron molecule, that is liquefied iron, not the stuff iron, that is a liquefied digested mineral which is we are taking from into the food or animal is taking into the food, and that iron molecule is interact with the globular protein, and then mutually that is the prosthetic group. Iron is a prosthetic group which interact with the globular protein, and so it is called as the hemoglobin. Okay, globin is a protein. Okay, globin is a protein, and hemo means the iron, and then mutually that will be forming a oxygen carrying substance, that is the hemoglobin. And so that each and every cell through the blood, why we call the blood as a liquid connective tissue. Blood, what is the definition of the blood? That is a liquid connective tissue, and through the blood the major role played by the hemoglobin into the blood, that will be responsible for the first of all cell respiration. If cell is respired, then all the activities of the cell, metabolism and the maintenance of the tissues and formation of the organs and the linking to the systems or formation of the systems can be takes place. That is because of the respiration. As now, if we stop our respiration, all will be stopped. So that as like through hemoglobin there is a respiration takes place into the cell. So cell respire through the hemoglobin. So why in here the major role played by the protein, as like lipoprotein, glycoproteins, various kinds of the proteins are responsible for the one, as well as for the processing of the nucleic acids. So that molecular biology, that is the study of macromolecules, that is the proteins and nucleic acids. So nucleic acids are nothing but the genes which are having a specialized kind of the structures, that genes which are responsible for the maintenance of the species genetics. So molecular biology, when we study the define the molecular biology, that is molecular biology is when forming the specific kind of the structures or the biochemistry will be takes place. Okay, specific structures will be formed, that is the biomolecules will be formed, and then that will be transformed into the, then after the further biochemical reaction they are transformed into the genetics, that is called as the genetics, and that genetics is related with the genes. Okay, that is the whatever specific kind of the genes or the specific kind of the characteristic genes are of the identity of the specific species. There is different species having the specialized kind of the genes, and so that characters are maintained into the first progeny to the next progeny, and so that the molecules, that is the macromolecules, especially proteins and nucleic acids, are responsible for all the activities of the formation of genes into the cell. So according to the distinguishing characteristics into the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell, I think so you have got it, followed me, and today till to the distinguishing characteristics as well as the various organelles present to the cell, we will stop here. Thanks.